I touched a Ouija board. Not me, I would never do that, but these dumb people did. And somehow they're still alive to tell their stories. I thought this was a fun idea because Halloween is right around the corner. Spooky season is almost here. I am ready for it. But also subscribe, turn on notifications, follow me on social media, links down below, and let's go. And of course, we gotta get the stuffed animals to protect us from the demons. Okay. Hexed. Justin played with a Ouija board one day with several of his friends. They asked questions, but instead of the planchette moving to certain letters, it began to move in a strange pattern. It's okay, guys, I'll protect you. It went to all four corners of the board and made an X. That is the #1 sign that you are talking to a dark spirit, something not nice. Then it just went in circles. That means you need to immediately stop what you're doing, do the proper like closing argument, whatever you call it, and put the board away because you are unlocking something very evil. The next time he used the board, again? Why are you continuing this? The next time he used it was with a different friend at his house. Again, the planchette moved in the same strange pattern. You unlocked an evil spirit and now it is attached to you in that board. I felt like it was some kind of hex. Later that night when he was sleeping, he felt a forceful hand grab his arm and wake him up. And it wasn't his friend. Why would y'all do that? I played on the playground as a kid, not with Ouija boards in my friend's basement. A ghastly glitch. Abby was in her room one night when playing with the Ouija board earlier that day. As she was getting ready for bed, her computer screen changed from black to blue. It turned on by itself. I mean, that happens to my laptop sometimes. Usually it updates itself, so that might just be a coincidence. So she turned the computer off, and then again, it turned itself back on. Anxious, Abby unplugged the computer completely. And then the unpowered computer started back up again. She buried the Ouija board in her backyard that same night. I don't think that's gonna stop it if you don't do the proper like ritual to kind of like, you know, cease the board's activity. But dang, it sounds like the demon just wanted to play some Roblox. Share your computer. Sharing is caring, girl. The open circle. When Vince, now 30, was a child, one of his friends goaded him into playing with the Ouija board in his basement. Young Vince didn't expect anything out of the ordinary to happen, so he went along with it. Once they started to play, however, the lights began to flicker, the air around them grew cold, and a spirit began to communicate with them through the board. The spirit spelled out a Russian name and claimed he had been murdered. We took a break to make some pizza rolls. That is such a casual change of topic. Like, yeah, we released this 1,000-year-old demon onto the planet, and then we took a snack break, but okay. But we forgot to close the circle once we were done. If you're new to Ouija board stories, that's a big no-no. You have to do the proper ritual when you're finished with the board. After returning to the basement, the energy was much heavier, and the books and things were sprawled out on the floor. Demon trashed the basement. So rude. And yet the board remained perfectly still in the center of the room, just how they had left it. Upon looking at a mirror that we had nearby, the eye of the Ouija board was moving sporadically in its reflection. That demon straight up possessed your board. Haunted housewarming. The first time I used a Ouija board, I was about 6 or 7. What? Why do y'all get into this stuff so young? When I was 6, I was wondering why the moon was following me. I was with my mom and my older sister, who was about 15 at the time. The family had just moved to a new house, much bigger and much older than the one they lived in previously. That's how all the scary movies start. They move into this big, cheap, old house. It's cheap for a reason, because it's haunted. That night, Paige, her mother, and her sister were eating pizza on the living room floor since they didn't have furniture, and they put on a fire to ease the chill. After dinner, her sister pushed her mom to let them play with their old Ouija board. Okay, that's just bad parenting. As we were using it, a box in the living room that had some books in it literally flew across the room. Demon don't like reading. That demon missing out though. I've read some pretty good books lately. I could give that demon some good recommendations. Get that demon on Book Talk. Shortly after that, the fire inexplicably went out. Demons like cold. And their mother was so shaken that she took the girls to their grandmother's house to spend the night. It's too late for that, girl. Summer camp scare. Dude, I loved summer camp. It's actually where I met my first serious boyfriend. He cheated on me, but yeah, summer camp is so fun. Ouija board stories don't necessarily have to involve the professionally packaged toy. As a child, Liam was at summer camp one year when he and some other boys drew their own Ouija board on a large sheet of paper. I didn't know you could do that. As soon as we started using it, we heard knocking coming from inside one of the lockers. And if you've ever seen any scary movie, you know if you hear something suspicious, do not go investigate. That is the first person who dies. Blackout. There are times in all of our lives when we question if something is really a coincidence or not. When it comes to Ouija boards, it ain't no coincidence, it's a demon. When Becky used a Ouija board during her first semester in college, she had one of those experiences. A few minutes in, we lost power. And then some car hit a pole on the street. The timing was strange, she says, to say the least. Yeah, it's your fault. Demon's just a bad driver. Imagine Satan having to take driver's ed. He's just sitting in the back, like, drawing on the desk. Like, oh, I don't want to be here. Deadbeat dad. Owen started playing with Ouija boards when he was a child. Some kids play with Barbies, some kids play with Ouija boards. To each their own. He has continued to experience paranormal phenomena ever since. My grandfather on my dad's side died before I was born. He and my dad were estranged, so my dad never spoke to him or had pictures of him around. He never saw what he actually looked like, to be able to identify him. One day, Owen began seeing and talking to a person he called Michael. Unbeknownst to him, Michael was his grandfather's name. Finally, my parents sat me down, showed me a picture of a man I had never seen before, and asked me if I knew who it was. I told them it was Michael and that he was right there with us in that very moment. Grandpa just wanted to come say hi to his grandkid. Flamethrower. This sounds fun and destructive. Be warned, some Ouija board stories can be violent. What are you talking about? They're all violent. When Anna was in high school, she had a sleepover with a bunch of her friends. And one of them, Brianna, wanted to use the Ouija board to contact her grandfather who had recently passed away. Girl, you can do that when I'm not here. The friends set up the board, turned off the lights, and lit a candle. They called upon the spirit of the grandfather, but when they did, the candle suddenly threw itself directly at Anna. She felt it was probably not the spirit they had called for. Or, Grandpa just don't like you. He said, girl, I'm dead, let me stay dead. Go, shoot. Girl, imagine a demon with a flamethrower. It's over. Blast from the past. I saw a full-bodied apparition. The apparition he saw was that of a young girl, wearing what looked like commoner's clothing from an antiquated era. Did you summon Little Red Riding Hood? He told the story to the neighbors, who happened to be historians, and they told him that a little girl, just like the one he described, used to live in his house. The apparition ended up being a 10-year-old girl named Annalise, who died of tuberculosis sometime in the late 1800s. How did they know that? They're murderers. They killed her. Delayed reaction. One evening when she was in high school, Sherry decided to use a Ouija board with her friends. Nothing seemed to happen, so they all just gave up. What they would discover later was that the Ouija board did actually work. Weird stuff happened in the house ever since that night. And to this day, it hasn't stopped. And she's 29 now. We've had glasses move right across the table by themselves. I saw a spoon and a cup of coffee aggressively stir in the cup without anyone being near it. Did you start melting into the chair? The sound of footsteps leading from upstairs down into the living room entrance never stopped. Paranormal experts say that these are some of the classic signs of a haunted house. No shit! Dorm hall morgue. When Tommy was a freshman in college, he and his dorm mates took out a Ouija board and had a threatening encounter with some very dark spirits. The dorm hall used to be a morgue. Who had the bright idea to build a college on top of an old morgue? Why? You are asking to be haunted. It was the perfect setting for a goof with friends, he thought, but they failed to realize how serious it could get. Guys, it ain't all fun and games. You don't joke around with spirits. The planchette began to move on the board, and the spirit, or spirits, communicate to them that 83 demons would come for them. Sounds like a fun party. The next thing you know, the dorm is haunted, and the girls can't sleep because stuff was turning on and off and messing with them. So they had a priest come in to bless the room, and it was good after. And that's why we don't mess with Ouija boards anymore. If you're gonna mess with demons and have a paranormal party, do it in the safety of your own home, not in a shared space where everyone else has to suffer. When heads roll. Randy learned what a Ouija board was the hard way when two of his family members introduced him to one when they were all children. My brother and cousins were older than us. This particular time, they had come home with a Ouija board. We agreed to play and to turn off the lights, light a candle. Randy sat down with his favorite doll, Kelly, at his side, nervously waiting in the dark. We started playing and asking questions, and before we knew it, the planchette started moving around in a pointed direction. And then it spelled out Kelly, the name of his doll. Next thing we knew, there was a loud bang against the radiator and everyone started screaming. We turned on the lights and by the radiator was the severed head of my favorite doll. Sounds like Annabelle got jealous. She said, there can only be one haunted doll up in this house, and it's gonna be me. Annabelle does not want a sister. But anyways, that's it for I Touched a Ouija Board stories. I hope this has taught you all a lesson not to mess with these things. Especially over Halloween, a lot of people are gonna wanna mess around, play jokes with these boards when it is not a joking matter. Do not touch those things, they are evil. But anyways, again, that's it. Comment below which one is the spookiest. As always, subscribe, turn on notifications, follow me on social media, and I'll see you tomorrow.